So this November, we got to hang out at the Evangelical Theological Society. We snagged a bunch of really cool interviews with a lot of different speakers. This is one of those interviews we hope that you guys enjoy.
Guys, my name's Michael Rowntree. Great to be with you guys, Remnant Radio. We're at the Evangelical Theological Society conference, and so grateful to be here with you, Mark Ward. Mark has been on the show before. Mark's YouTube channel is called Mark Ward. You should be able to find that, W-A-R-D. Yeah. So excited to have you back. Now, Mark, you came from an independent fundamentalist Baptist background, and obviously of just this vast theological knowledge. So I want to just ask you, shaking your head there, but I just want to ask you a question. What would you want to say to people who are just wanting to grow and sort of expand their horizons, maybe for anyone theologically, but also with a special focus on those with an independent fundamentalist Baptist background?
Yeah, well, I'm still kind of all three of those things. Like, my church is independent. Technically, that's a long story. I believe all the fundamentals of the faith, and I took the side of the fundamentalists, still do, in the fundamentalist modernist controversy, which means I believe in the inspiration and authority of the Bible. I'm also a Credo Baptist, so I've left and I haven't left. I was in King James only, the King James only branch of the IFB growing up, and that I have left behind. Although I have friends there and people I love and respect that I'm really grateful for. But if I'm gonna talk to somebody like that, or somebody else who's maybe encountered Remnant Radio or other good YouTube channels where they're seeing, hey, there's people out there that I used to, maybe I would have called them compromisers and not listened to them, but I can tell they actually have some knowledge about scripture and theology that I lack. You know, where would you start? Well, I always tell people, build a bridge of trust that God has already established for you providentially. So listen to the books that people you already kind of resonate with are reading. Look for models and then, yes, follow them. And I'm not saying to the exclusion of Scripture, obviously, that's always the norm. But the Bible itself Christ gives teachers to his church.
Right.
So I'm looking for responsible teachers who treat the Bible with care and can help me take that next step in the journey. That's very broadly what I say.
Right. Well, but if I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody from an independent fundamentalist Baptist background, and perhaps their discernment so far has just been like, it's either IFB. Now, I don't want to mischaracterize,
sure,
but I know sometimes it can be characterized as like, if it's IFB, I can trust it, and if it's not, I can't trust it. What would you say to somebody who's been in a church like that? And any church or denomination can do that, for the record.
Yes, any church or denomination can do that. And even within a denomination where the leaders maybe are gracious and helpful and humble and caring and not blasting away at other Christians, sometimes people in the pews still pick up the idea that our denomination is the be-all and end-all. I'd say start there. Start with the recognition theologically that everybody's made in the image of God, and that if these people over there in this other denomination have been rescued by the Spirit, have been saved, then they have spiritual gifts. And more than likely, they have something to give to you. They have an insight. They have a strength. So even when I look at the IFB, I look back at a time when I was in churches that were heavily evangelistic. And that was a good strength. I'm glad they had that. But was their strength preaching very carefully from the Bible and interpreting it accurately? No, it really wasn't. And I would like to see some humble recognition across denominational lines. First off, just start here, that God is allowed to give strengths to other groups of Christians that he hasn't given to me and my group, which doesn't mean that my strengths don't exist. It doesn't mean that the other group's problems don't exist.
Right.
But that's where I want to start.
Okay. And are there some resources that you would recommend along the way?
We're standing at the Logos Bible software booth. I also pronounce Logos, and I actually know a guy who came from King James only circles, who went to 2 different King James only, Baptist colleges, did his 4 years, and was supposedly ready to pastor. But he was a really humble guy. He had a father who was also a godly, humble man, who did not have good training, let's just be frank. And after he graduated from these little colleges, where the teaching was just not that great, he was given a copy of Logos Bible software. This is so convenient, like for me to say at the Logos booth, but it's actually true. And somebody, well-meaning in the church thought, oh, I've heard this is good for preachers, he needs to have this. Well, suddenly he has a systematic theology. I should go like this, like it's on his laptop, And he'd never even heard of a systematic theology before. He hadn't had any good commentaries or lexical resources. and he got an education through just reading the books in Logos.
Oh, wow.
And what I found when I moved from circles where learning was not honored, people were actually really suspicious about going to seminary. And I get it, because sometimes people come back liberal or arrogant, and both of those are sins. I found that if I just went for the people who gave me more and more meat, Bible stuff, they started to introduce me to a world of good books, and actually we're surrounded by so many of them here.
Okay.
And I keep, resisting saying here's a specific name, because
I hope you enjoyed that short interview. And if you're interested in learning more about church history or theology or the gifts of the Spirit, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, because we come out with content every single week. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we interview pastors and teachers from different churches and denominations. We talk about their books that they've written. We talk about the theological disagreements that are going on right now, either in culture or in the academic space. And if you really want to really think deeply about Christian issues and hear from a broad base of sources, this is the channel for you. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, because we'll keep coming out with content every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday throughout the week.